read a few years ago a book called The Last Ape Standing, and it was written by an anthropology popularizer. In other words, he didn't have a PhD in anthropology, but he'd done a lot of reading. And his book, The Last Ape Standing, he traveled through a study of some 20 apes that were trying to stay alive and reproduce, and how it fell away until it was just the Neanderthals and the oh Christ, what was the name of the ones that eventually became Homo sapiens? I always forget what their name was before they became Homo sapiens, but they were the ones that came up from Africa and survived. And the point I want to make here is that he talked about the ape that was a sweet, apparently wonderful species that lived on nuts, living in the trees, which is, of course, what the howler monkeys are doing in Nicaragua now around our house. They don't just eat nuts, but that's the real core of their diet. Well, these wonderful, sweet apes didn't leave. There was a cooling in the earth at the time, and it eventually killed most of the animals in the world. But a few traveled down to the tip of Africa and survived, and they then spread out all over the world and became Homo sapiens. But the point of it is that these sweet ones that lived in the trees and were so happy and comfortable they couldn't make themselves move, they stayed there and froze to death. And then you've got the humans now who can't demand an affordable electric car and get out of their internal combustion car. In fact, they're going out and buying SUVs so they can take their children to soccer practice. And rushing around and consuming, the economy is growing instead of people reduce consumption is what we need to do. We need to live more simply, and some people are. Maybe that's part of the reason that Nike's sales are faltering. Maybe it's just because people are working remotely and they don't need a jazzy pair of tennis shoes to wear to work or to something where people go out in public. I don't know. But what I do know is that we're slow to adapt. My liberal Democrat friends are having so much trouble letting go of Joe Biden when the evidence is screaming at them that if we don't, we're going to probably not only lose the White House, but also the House and the Senate. But they just cling on like those sweet apes living in the jungle, living on nuts. You just can't adapt, can't let go, can't move on. Fascinating thing about the species, sometimes called Homo sapien. I'm watching. I don't have too many more years to watch it, but for now I'm watching to see when people will mobilize against climate change. When will they say, what do we got to do really to burn less carbon? How are we going to quit using so much plastic that takes carbon to produce? All the wrappings and the bags. And you buy something and it comes in a box with all kinds of plastic wrapping and plastic things inside to support it from rattling around in the box. It's just endless. And it's going to kill us if we don't find a way to adapt and change. P.S. I don't think we're going to. But I hope I live to see a mobilization of people's minds. We'll see. Or somebody will see after I'm gone. End of that tape.